Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. This webinar is not slated to start until 10 o'clock, so we're just going to give it a couple of minutes here, or a minute or so, for folks to join in and get settled for the webinar before we begin. Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. We're just going to give it a few more seconds here just to make sure that everyone that is going to be joining us makes it on before we kind of get going. We're just going to kick off with a couple of refreshers for past webinar settings before we dive into the content here this morning. All right. Looks like we have a good few people have joined us now. So I just wanted to provide a bit of a brief introduction before we get going. Welcome to ARMA's EPR webinar series. Today's session is the first Oversight Fee Consultation webinar. My name is Kayla Judy, and I'm a Communications Manager with Canadian Strategy Group. And it is my pleasure to serve as facilitator and moderator for today's webinar. And I would like to start us off with a land acknowledgement before we get going. ARMA works with Albertans from all areas of our province and acknowledges that Indigenous peoples who have lived among and traveled through the land in the area currently known as Alberta. The relationship that peoples of Treaty 4, 6, 7, 8, and 10, Alberta's Métis and Inuit peoples, have with the land is founded on a deep respect for the environment. This connection forms the foundation of our responsibility and vision of inspiring a future without waste. This webinar today will present information live and answer any questions that may help inform producer feedback throughout the consultation process. To keep the time moving along nicely, we will follow prior webinar settings where registrant audio functionality has been turned off. But to ask a question, we invite you to use the Q&A chat, and questions will be addressed live towards the end of the presentation. A reminder as well that these webinar sessions are being recorded and they will be made available on the ARMA website afterwards. With that all said, I will now turn it over to Director of EPR Operations and Change Optimization, Victor Dong. Over to you, Victor.
Thank you so much, Kayla, and good morning, everyone. So welcome to the very first fee consultation webinar for EPR Oversight Fee here in Alberta. As Kayla mentioned, my name is Victor Dong. I am the Director of EPR Operations here at ARMA. I'll be taking you through the materials we have for you on what to expect for both the 2024 and 2025 oversight fees here in Alberta. This presentation is available on our website, and the recording will also be made publicly available after. So for today's presentation, we'll go over what our fee setting timeline is, including the consultation, as well as when final fees will be set, our approach to our oversight fee and how we came up with our fees, what our cost recovery objectives are in terms of the amount we're trying to recover, how costs are allocated between the PPP and HSP programs, and what the overall fee process is. Finally, I'll be walking you through what you can expect in terms of the survey you will get shortly after this presentation for all producers in the system. So the consultation process begins today, or yesterday, I should say, on September 30th, and we will run until November 14th. So this is the time for you, producers, to have the opportunity to review our draft oversight fee rates and provide your feedback to us. The input we receive from you as producers during this period will help shape the final fee structure, and we, of course, want to ensure that it is as fair and sustainable as possible. Once the consultation closes, we will compile all of the feedback and summarize the results. A detailed report will be submitted to the Ministry of Environment and Protected Areas here in the province, and that report will go to them the latest November 20th, and that will also be publicly available shortly after. From there, our board will be approving our oversight fees for both 2024 and 2025. That approval is currently scheduled for early December, and we expect our fees, once approved, will be posted in late December on ARMA's website. All right, so The way we design our fees is rooted in the principles that we have in our fee setting policy. So the policy was consulted on and finalized back in February with key stakeholder groups. That document is publicly available on our website if you are interested in reading it. And really, there are three key objectives outlined in the policy that we keep in mind while building our fee setting process. So the first being that we want to make sure this is a transparent process. We are ARMA, we are authorized to establish and collect fees to recover the costs related to our oversight mandate for EPR. We want to ensure that our fee methodology and the proposed fees are well understood by all of our impacted stakeholders, and that we gather necessary feedback before finalize anything. And the transparency in this process to us is key to gaining your trust and ensuring the alignment with our regulatory expectations as well. Of course, we need to ensure that the fees we set ensures we are financially sustainable to manage and meet our oversight obligations. This includes setting up a reserve fund that allows us to respond to ongoing needs and any emerging risks. And the fees we set is about making sure we have the resource necessary to manage the program effectively now and in the future. And our fees is based on a cost recovery model, meaning that we do not collect more fees than we need to operate oversight. And finally, we want to ensure that we have reasonable fees and that they're actually based on the cost of oversight, and they are fairly allocated across the single-use products, paper and packaging, and the hazardous and special products programs, which are the two parts of the EPR regulation. And of course, continuous improvement will be top of mind for us as we launch the program. This is the first time we are doing our fee setting. So we do expect minor adjustments and refinements as we progress and as we set fees. And we want to make sure that there's equity across all of our impacted stakeholders and ensure that fees are understandable and transparent for US producers. The way our fee is set is really consists of three parts. To start, we need to understand our total cost to recover for overseeing the EPR system. And for this year's oversight fees, you'll see I will reference the startup cost. So that is us standing up the program here in the province. And as we transition to an annual operating model, we will, of course, have ongoing costs to maintain and administer the program. And then from there, once we understand our costs and what we need to recover, we will then allocate the cost between PPP and HSP. So these steps ensure that there is proportional cost of oversight assigned to the two programs, whether it is for packaging, paper products, hazardous materials, and so forth. And finally, once we have it by program, we establish a methodology to determine how oversight costs are distributed among producers within each PPP and HSP. And this step really ensures that fairness for producers paying in proportion to their impact on the system. In terms of our cost recovery objective, so you'll hear me talk a lot about in these four categories. So we have our startup costs, and this refers to the initial investments required to establish oversight of EPR system. This includes expense such as the development of our bylaws and policies, stakeholder engagement efforts throughout the year, and capital investments necessary to support the infrastructure of our registry system. And our startup costs will run from January of 2023 all the way to March 31st of 2025. So that is what we consider our stand-up period. From there, so starting in April of 2025, we transition to the annual cost. So these are the ongoing costs that cover the day-to-day operations of EPR oversight. And this includes the administrative, operational, and eventually additional capital expenses required for the functioning of the system here in Alberta. We are establishing a reserve fund. It is a fairly minimal reserve designed to cover really wind down activities if needed. And the fund can also help us mitigate risks and provide a safety net for unforeseen costs that may arise during our operation. And lastly, we have financing costs, and these really are the the costs that are associated with the expenses for borrowing to cover the startup and any potential borrowing required for operational efforts. As we stood up EPR here in Alberta, for ARMA, this was a net new operation, so we needed to borrow money and finance that money to stand up the system here in Alberta. And then just a quick final note. Our fiscal year does run from April to March. So both our operational and capital costs for the 2025 calendar year are currently estimates, and we will require board approval in December before those are finalized, which ties into the finalization of our rates. So here is the breakdown of our startup costs. As I mentioned, so this represents the period from January 1st, 2023 to March 31st of 2025. So part of this cost is actuals and part of it is still projected as we go through the last 6 months of our startup phase. And we are looking for a 5-year recovery of our startup costs. So both the financing costs, so the financing cost portion is representing what we expect financing costs to be as we recover the startup costs over the next 5 years. The IT and registry system, that is the capital component of our startup costs. So that represents standing up ARMA Connect, building all of the reporting functionality, as I'm sure many of you have reported and interacted with our system. 28% to our salaries and benefits of our staff. Consulting and legal costs, predominantly used for when we worked with our subject matter experts to stand up the various operational documents we need. And of course, overhead expenses. In terms of our various components, so this table follows the 4 categories between startup costs, our annual costs, financing costs, and our reserve fund. So this breaks down those 4 categories for both the 2024 and 2025 rates that we're looking to recover. So in 2024, we are still in that stand-up phase. So there is no annual operating or capital costs allocated to this current calendar year. With the recovery of our 2024 oversight fee, we are looking to establish our reserve fund upfront, as this is a priority for us to mitigate any risks as we launch the program. And as you can see, the principal of our startup cost is being amortized over 5 years. So from 2024 all the way to 2028. We have broken down what the recovery of the startup cost looks like in our 5-year amortization, just for you to have an idea of the known costs that are already allocated to the subsequent years. Of course, with our focus being for 2024 and 2025. In our 2025 year, regular operations do begin, and that reflects in the estimate for our annual operating budget of $6 million. And while we are only consulting on 24 and 25, right, the components in 26 to 28 is related to the startup costs. And then we are looking, and then we will have additional information available as additional costs for future consultations for 2026. So in 2024, we are looking at a cost recovery objective of 4.6 million and just over 9 million for 2025. All right, so now knowing the cost recovery objective, let's talk about how costs are allocated. So the cost allocation is, of course, calculated based on supply information as the main driver. And we use the allocation used in the current fees are based on the actual supply report we have in the system today. So we have 93% of registered producers who are expected to report their supply data have reported that information in the PPP program, and 86% in HSP. We are actively working with producers who have not yet submitted their supply report to ensure this information is provided as soon as possible. And of course, any new information we get from producers will be incorporated into the final rate calculation before those rates are finalized and approved. And when it comes to our startup cost and really all of our fees, one of the biggest challenges we face here in the province when it comes to fee setting is kind of balancing the costs with the number of producers and supply volume we have. So in terms of our stand-up, most of that cost is very similar to other province, but there is a lot of fixed costs there, such as building the registry system. That's just a critical infrastructure investment that every jurisdiction needs, regardless of population or the number of producers. We, of course, have the same operating requirements, such as developing our essential bylaws, policies, and procedures that is necessary to set up and run the system. And these requirements ensure we meet our regulatory obligations. And of course, we need staff to help run the oversight function, ensuring compliance and the operation of the program. The challenge, of course, comes when our ability to recover these costs is limited due to the number of producers and the supply volume we have compared to larger jurisdictions, such as Ontario in this example. So we are recovering based on about just under 270 million kilograms of supply volume between the PPP and HSP programs. And you'll see the lower program volume means that the cost is spread across fewer entities, and that will be reflected on the cost allocation and the rate for individual producers. So based on our projected costs, here are how the costs are allocated to the two programs. So in terms of actual dollars, for 2024, PPP is allocated 3.9 million of our oversight fee cost recovery objective of the 4.6 million total that we're looking to recover. And it's about 700,000 for HSP for the same year. And in 2025, as we begin operations, the PPP allocation increased to 7.7 million and HSP increases to 1.4 million. And these allocations are based on proportional costs attributed to the two programs. And what this means for you as an individual producer is in order to help you estimate your oversight fee, your individual producer fee will have two components. There is a flat fee and potentially a variable fee, depending on the amount of designated material you have supplied. So all producers who are obligated to pay will pay at the flat fee. The flat fee will be different between PPP and HSP, but all producers who are obligated to pay will have a flat fee associated. For any producers who exceeds a certain material threshold, they will also incur a variable fee. Currently, the proposed threshold for PPP is set at 50,000 kilograms, and for HSP is set at 2,000 kilograms. And what this translates to is that 40% of producers is required to pay the flat fee, and 60% of producers is required to pay the flat and variable fee. So there's about 60% of producers who have supplied over 50,000 kilograms for PPP, and about 40% of producers who reported under 50,000. And both of these fee components are up for consultation, and I'll kind of talk about a bit later. But for you today, if you want to estimate what your fee would be for next year, you can take the flat fee that I will show on the next slide, and then take the variable rate multiplied by the volume you've reported to us, and that should give you an estimated oversight fee. So in terms of the numbers, the flat fee for PPP is set at $80 for 2024 and $150 for 2025. And the variable rate is 0.0154 and 0.0302. And then for HSP is $60 for the flat fee and $110 for 2025. And there's the two variable rates there for HSP. So based on the previous slide, you can take the flat rate and the variable rate and calculate your estimated fees for next year. In terms of what the administration process looks like, this is the fee setting cycle that will be consistent going forward. So the annual cycle starts with supply reporting, and supply report for Alberta is due by June 30th of each year. And this, of course, is crucial data for us to calculate the fees for the following year. Consultation, as we have started yesterday, generally will be the fall of each year. We will have a 45-day consultation process where you're able to provide us with feedback related and hopefully gives you time to budget and plan your oversight fee for the coming year. We aim to have our fees finalized by December. There may be small adjustments to the fee rates, and as we progress and set fees, I'm sure those adjustments will become minimal. Our goal really is to give you a very good estimate in the fall to help you with your budgeting for next year. Invoice for oversight fees are issued in April of every year, and that is based on the consultation in the fall. So for next year, there is 2 billing cycles for oversight because we are recovering both 24 and 25. But going forward, it will be April of every year. And we hope that this annual cycle allows for a transparent and predictable process for setting and collecting oversight fees and providing you as producers with a clear timeline each year. So if we look at the example for looking at 2025 oversight fees, supply report was due on June 30th. That data was used to calculate the fees we're talking about today during our consultation process. We hope to finalize the rates by the end of this year with our board approval, and that is billed in April of next year. So 2024 is the anomaly year, but 2025 does follow our standard cycle. In terms of what our payment terms and policies looks like with regards to payments, we have producers will have a 60-day period to make your payments once invoices are issued. And of course, timely payments are essential to ensure compliance as well as for our smooth operation of our program. ARMA does enforce a 15% annual interest rate on any overdue accounts. And that is a corporate policy here that is consistent between our EPR Oversight Division and our Stewardship Division. And there is a variety of payment options available to U.S. producers to meet our obligations that is listed on the slide for your reference for later. We have talked to your producer responsibility organizations about the option to delegate of oversight fees to pay through a pro. And many of you who have used our ARMA Connect portal and you are working with a pro, you'll have seen that as an option available to you. So the delegation is in place, so you can select whether you would like a pro to pay for your oversight fees or not. This functionality in the system will not be available until earliest 2026. So for next year's oversight fee, this means that invoices will go to U.S. producers directly, and you will need to pay the oversight fees directly to ARMA. And part of the reason for this is due to feedback from working with our registered and active pros. And the majority of the pros have indicated they're not intending to offer this service until 2026. So that is also why we've delayed this functionality in our system. So we are able to push some of the costs of developing this to a further date. And we will continue to provide you with updates once this is available to ensure that both U.S. producers and pros can effectively manage how you like to pay within the new system. So for the final part of the consultation, I'm going to walk through what you can expect with the survey. So this is a bit of a busy slide, so I'll just take some time to walk you through this. So with the survey that you will get, so the survey will go to all registered producers who are obligated to pay oversight fees. So this is a very set survey for our impacted stakeholders. There's really 2 key parts to the survey. And the first is regarding the flat fee and variable fee and how they should be allocated. So what you'll essentially see in the survey is a table that's a bit of a matrix. And really the way we set our flat and variable fee is they represent a certain portion of the overall cost recovery objective. So in terms of the flat fee contribution, currently our proposed flat fee for both PPP and HSP is the highlighted option in yellow on the screen right now. So for 2024 and 2025, the proposed flat fee is $80 for 24 and $150 for 2025 for PPP and $60 and $110 for HSP. And really how we derive the flat fee amount is that this accounts for 1% of our total cost recovery target for the year. And really what we're looking for feedback from producer is whether the percentage of the cost recovery target that should come from flat fees. So our proposed option for to start is option 1, which is 1% of the overall cost recovery target comes from flat fees. Option 2 represents a 2% contribution from flat fees. and option 3 represents a 5% cost recovery coming from the flat fees, which means that the flat fee amount would increase. But if you look at the variable fee component of the table, that is why the variable fee is decreasing, because we are getting a higher portion of the fee from the flat fee specifically. Now, looking at the variable fee component, what we have proposed is that of the producers, of all obligated producers, 40% of producer is required to pay the flat fee, and 60% of producers is required to pay both the flat and variable fee. So we do want your feedback on what that ratio should be. So there are also 3 options for variable fee, being 35% of producers paying only the flat fee, 65% paying flat and variable. Our proposed currently is 40-60 split. And the third option is 45% of producers paying flat fee and 55% paying both flat and variable fee. And the combination of these 2 options would essentially land to where the flat fee and variable fee are. So essentially for right now, the proposed option we have is option 1B, meaning option 1 for flat fee and option B for variable fee. So when you get the survey, you essentially would have the same matrix, and you can give us feedback on which of the 9 options, combination of options, is your preferred option. And then we will take all feedback into consideration for any potential adjustments to what the final option would be in terms of flat fee and variable fee. So part 2 of the survey really is more of a general comment. We have broken down the general comments into 4 different buckets, being any comment you wish to provide us related to startup cost recovery, any comments related to the allocation between the amount we allocate to PPP and HSP program, any individual producer fee methodology, so really your perspective on the flat fee plus variable fee approach to cost recovery, and a general suggestion for improvement. So part 1 on the previous slide, that is the main question that we are looking for your feedback on. That is a mandatory question in the survey. Part B is more general comments you have regarding the fee consultation process and our fees. And it is broken down into these 4 categories, but these will be more optional questions. And with that, we've allocated lots of time for any questions you may have regarding any components that I presented or any other general questions. And I'm sure there's been some questions come in. So Kayla, maybe I'll pass it back to you to help me moderate the questions.
Absolutely. Thank you, Victor. So let's just dive into the Q&A here, and feel free to add them in as we kind of go through these. If anyone else's question prompts anything on your end, feel free to flag that. So the first one here is the 2024 fee based on calendar year 23 supply data? Similarly, is the 2025 fee based on calendar year 24 supply data?
Yeah, that is a great question. So both the 24 and 25 fees is based on the calendar year 23 supply data. So you can use the same supply volume that you have reported for 2023, and of course, multiplying it by the different rates in the 2 years. Yeah, so you are using the same supply number, but for both years oversight fee. That is a great question.
Perfect, thank you. The next one here says, can I ask you to send to show the previous slide that shows the fee rates? So just that initial slide.
Yeah, so maybe I'll leave it on this one. So this kind of just shows the flat and variable. The presentation is available on our website, as will the recording. And we are actually going to have a fee estimator calculator available as well after the presentation. It's nothing too fancy. It's more of just a spreadsheet that has all of the numbers built in. So for anyone who is interested, you can just download the spreadsheet and use that. Yeah.
Perfect. Another one here. What if producers are under the exemption criteria for materials or tonnage as stated in the bylaws?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the consultation will be sent to producers who are obligated to pay. So in the question itself, yeah, so any producers who are under material threshold, as we call it, will not have a fee for oversight fee, and those numbers are excluded from our calculations, and you won't be expected to pay any fees there.
Perfect. All right, the next one here. How many stewards are registered with ARMA that will pay the fee?
So we do have the information available publicly in terms of number of producers. Um, I I will have to get back to you on the exact number. And that is something maybe we'll incorporate online, the percentage that is eligible or required, I should say, to pay oversight fees. So we can certainly provide that information. We do have a compliance page on our website that shows all of our active and registered producers. Currently, it does show all of the revenue exemptions, meaning that when you, at the time of registration with our system, if you're under our revenue threshold, which is the first exemption criteria, specifically for PPP, those producers are exempt from reporting. So that you can see on our website today in terms of under our compliance page of who's registered, who's active, who's exempt. Material exemptions, because we are just working through our fee model, we haven't updated that live yet, but we most likely will update that on our website under the compliance page.
Great, thank you for that one. The next one here is, how will ARMA track and account for quote freeloaders, or those companies that have not registered as a producer and should?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we certainly recognize, freeloaders are a big concern to all of our producers who are compliant. So we do have a list of free riders that is known to us already. And we do have our compliance team that currently actively reaches out. I will say first year, we definitely focus more on the education components of letting producers know that, hey, EPR regulation is live in Alberta, and you need to register and report potentially. So our compliance team does a wonderful job of reaching out currently. If producers do know other producers who may be or should be register with us, but if they're not aware, we are happy to follow up if they are made known to us. But we do certainly, work closely with other jurisdictions. Other jurisdictions, for example, Ontario, do have a list of all of their active producers on publicly available as well. So our team certainly do look at other jurisdictions' information, see if they have materials here. And for now, the main approach is an educational approach, but our team is actively reaching out to those freeloaders. And of course, compliance will come once kind of we felt like we've educated them enough.
Perfect. Great. Thank you for that one. This question leans back to the first one that was asked. Looking forward, would the 2026 fee then be based on calendar year 24 supply data?
Yeah, so it is always a 2-year lag. So yes, so the 2026 oversight fees will be based on the 2024 supply data and so forth. So it is a 2-year lag. Yeah, that is a great observation.
Perfect for that one. And then this next one here, what would be the due date for 2024 and 2025 fee invoice? Are these in quarterly installments?
So for 2024, the invoice will go out in January of next year. We had contemplated invoicing this year, but due to feedback from producers and those representing producers, introducing a invoice in the middle of the year when they haven't budgeted for it is not preferable. So that is why we pushed the 24 invoice to January of next year. And the 2025 invoice will go out in April, and that is the normal cadence going forward. The current payment term is 60 days. So currently, there is no quarterly installment plan.
Perfect, great. Move on to the next one here. We just have a couple left, so just a reminder if anyone else has any questions to get them into the Q&A process as we run through these. The next one here, Victor says, one of the slides showed that only 9 producers have supplied data for HSP, which is extremely low. How many total HSP producers do you have registered, including those that have not yet supplied their data?
Yeah, and apologies if the presentation slide was unclear. That 9 actually refers to supply volume. So it's 9 million kilograms of supply data that has been reported in HSP, which we have about just under 130 registered producers in HSP. So that is the number of producers we have. And then it's about 86% of those that have reported. And then, off the top of my head, just 100 or so that equates to the reporting of the quick math. So that 9 actually refers to the 9 million kilograms.
Perfect. Thanks for that one. Another one here. In other recycling programs, there are fees based on type of materials recycled. With ARMA, are we supposed to pay a flat fee of 80 plus 0.0153 per kilogram of total material supplied for the supplies we have made in 2023?
Yeah, so our fee methodology currently is set based on the flat fee plus variable fee model. The variable fee, with the caveat that the variable fee is only incurred if you're over the threshold in either PPP or HSP. So if you supply under 50,000 kilograms in PPP, you would only pay whatever the flat fee is, so 80 and 150 for 24 and 25. But if you supply over 50,000, then yes, it will be the flat fee plus the variable rate. And it's the variable rate times your kilogram of total material supplied.
Perfect. The next one here says, there are a lot of producers in Alberta that may not be aware of these changes. What is ARMA doing to ensure all who produce are aware of their obligations?
Yeah, so very similar to the free rider question, we certainly want to make sure that there is awareness, and we understand the more producers in the system, the better it is for everyone. So we do actively look at producers who supply. We have a variety of different ways we try to be aware of all producers, whether that is by the various industries, looking with other regulatory jurisdictions on the data they have that they are able to share with us. I will say, because ARMA also operate our stewardship programs, we certainly also look at, are there any of our existing suppliers on the stewardship side who are also obligated on the EPR side? So, there are multiple methods we are doing, and hopefully we are capturing as many as possible. And of course, working with all of the various industry associations who have been very supportive and making sure we reach as many producers as possible. But we certainly encourage if you're not sure if they're producers, there is that public list we have. Any producers you do know should be registered with us, you feel free to let us know as well, and we'll follow up with them.
Great. So that was that one. The next one here, any fees allocated to the electronics program?
So the electronics is part of our stewardship program. So unfortunately, I can't speak to that. I do know there is the environmental fee set, and there's a whole separate process. But if you reach out to info at Alberta Recycling, they can direct you to folks in our electronics program side, and I'm sure they're happy to answer any fee questions you have.
Perfect. And this is another one here. This is a bit of an example situation. So it says, our company falls under 50,000 kilograms for PPP. Can you please confirm if we will only be paying the flat fee? So the flat fee is $80. How will this be applied to us assuming we reported 20,000 kilograms of PPP?
Yeah, so I will say our proposed threshold is 50,000, and that represents a 40-60% producer split. If the overwhelming feedback is that producers prefer a 35-65 split, and we decide to incorporate that would drop the threshold. Off the top of my head, I think it's around 35,000 kilograms. So I will say our proposal currently to impact the stakeholder is 50,000. But depending on producer feedback and whether we incorporate the change, that could change what the threshold is. So as producers, as you kind of answer our survey, the 35, 65, 40, 60, 45, 55 choice does translate to a different threshold. The survey will tell you exactly what those thresholds are. But that is in your question, if that changes, then it will be a different threshold. But anyone under the final threshold is only paying the flat fee. And it doesn't matter how much you're under, that is just a flat fee for that specific program.
Great, thank you for that one. Looks like we have one more question in here. This is a bit of a two-parter. So for HSP, will that fee be based on tonnage and not on product sizes like paint recycling? And secondly, will this always be a yearly fee? I thought we would be reporting monthly like we do with paint, just looking for clarification.
Yeah, so maybe the one thing I'll just make sure, because we're talking about a bit about paint as an example. So any product, if you're a producer who report to us on the stewardship side, any product we report in stewardship is not part of EPR. So there is no overlap between our stewardship programs and EPR in terms of the products that is in either stream. So if you do have additional materials that you do not report in our stewardship program, then this would be applicable to us. And yes, it is based on tonnage. And we specifically, we convert it to kilograms for our reporting and fee. So, and it is a yearly fee, not a monthly fee. So the cost recovery target I mentioned, it is for the year. And we recover the fee once a year, and then there is no fees until the following year.
Perfect, great. A couple more come in. The next one here is, can we pay through a pro for producers in Canada?
Yeah, so we are certainly talking with the pros. Some pros would like to pay on their behalf, and we certainly will. We're okay with being an option. The majority of the pros have just indicated to us that they are not ready to offer this service for 2025. So we are working with them to make it available when both sides of the parties are ready. So currently, we are looking at implementing that feature in 2026. And really, the way we are most likely going to do it for us is producers will always be billed because you are the obligated party, but pros will have visibility into your invoice and can pay it on your behalf. At a very high level, that's kind of what we're contemplating.
Great, thank you for that one. All right, so that looks like there are no more questions left in the Q&A, but oh, there we go. Yeah, and if anyone else has any other ones before we conclude, please get them in so we can chat about them here. So the next one here is, so if a PPP producer supplies 49,999 kilograms, their 2024 fee is $80. If they supply just over that by 1 kilogram, their fee is $770. That seems a little bit funny. Did ARMA consider not using a flat fee?
Yeah, that's a very astute observation. We've certainly talked about the $700 kilogram where producers um, may want to kind of be under that threshold. So the threshold is kind of what we get feedback from producers are. I will say if a producer does supply 49,999 and the threshold is 50,000, that may seem suspicious, and we certainly would take a closer look. But we have considered we've considered a flat fee only, we've considered flat and variable. This is kind of where we've landed in terms of simplicity and easy to understand. So I will say, this is our fee model. This is our very first one. We are certainly happy to look and receive feedback. As we move forward, we certainly would want to make this a more equitable and sustainable model. We've contemplated progressive fee rates, a variety of different options. This is kind of where we landed this year, but that is a very good observation, and it is a true observation for sure. So that is the reality, unfortunately, currently, but we are always looking to look at what that looks like. And if it is 49,999, we will take a closer look at that number. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Victor, for that one. Another one here. This is a great presentation. Thank you. Can we expect similar presentations quarterly to update companies on the progress and changes?
Yeah, appreciate the feedback. We're always happy to share any information, like if you have questions. We do only do fee setting once a year, but we certainly have a variety of webinars throughout the year on various topics. So, like in your feedback, if there is something that you would like to see quarterly, please definitely let us know and we can see what information we can share.
Perfect. That one. Another question here about fees for clarification. Can you confirm 2024 fees are for 2023 volumes?
Yes, that's correct.
Perfect. And then another quick one here as well. What is the deadline for this consultation?
The deadline for the consultation is November 14th. So it's a 45-day consultation period. Our main mechanism is through the survey, and all registered producers will get the survey to their main account holder on ARMA Connect. If that's not the right person, or if you haven't seen the survey and you're expecting it, please do let us know. The survey is scheduled to go out later today, probably closer to the end of the day. But if you're expecting to hear from us with the survey by tomorrow and you haven't, definitely reach out to us at EPR at Alberta Recycling, and we'll kind of make sure you get the survey.
Great, perfect. So we're just going to get ready and clue up here now, and offer a bit of a wrap up to this discussion. Thank you, Victor, of course, for that presentation. That was great. And thanks to all of you for joining us today. It was a really great conversation, and we appreciate your participation and the questions that you asked in the Q&A as well. Just a reminder to everyone that the recording from this session will be available later this week on the ARMA website for those who want to revisit the conversation, the presentation, or the questions as well. And just a reminder as well that this is the first webinar consultation this month. The second one will be towards the later of the month on Tuesday, October 29th at 1 p.m. To sign up for this webinar, you can visit the ARMA website. And likewise, for additional EPR information, the ARMA website is available, and you can also connect with the ARMA EPR team directly through email. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us. This was a really great conversation, and we look forward to hearing your feedback over the coming 45 days. Thanks again.